like that. Man, I am ready.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm so excited to welcome all of you to Elm Shakespeare Company's celebration of BIPOC performance. I'm company member Gracie Brown, and I'm so excited to welcome you to the final event in our series for 2020. We are located at 7 Connecticut State University on the lands of Golden Hill Kibosset Nation and perform in what is now known today as Edgerton Park on the lands of the Quinnipiac. We gratefully honor their stewardship of this land and seek to better understand our place within its history. This series was born out of the activism and brilliant questions asked by the students in the theater department at 7 Connecticut State University. Over 5 unique events, we're hoping to do 3 things. Number 1, celebrate the many Black, Indigenous, and Latinx artists of color, be they directors, actors, teachers, designers, scholars, who bring the plays of William Shakespeare to life. 2, to have real conversations about the challenges and issues raised in these 400-year-old plays, but also the system around Shakespeare and the myth of its ultimate achievement in high art that has been used sometimes to erase, oppress, and even harm other cultures. And last, we wanted to create understanding and intentionality for Elm Shakespeare's work in our community, looking at how and why Elm Shakespeare does the work it does and how to do it better. I want to say a special thanks to our series sponsor, Webster Bank, and the Elizabethan Club at Yale University, as well as 7 Connecticut State University, where Elm has been the theater in residence since 2015. And to all the corporate foundation and public partners that support Elm's year-round mission of bringing all of New Haven together through Shakespeare. If you'd like to add your support, please visit elmshakespeare.org and click donate. Tonight, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome a host of incredibly talented performers. Help me welcome them as they turn on their cameras and introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Brandon Burton. I'm coming at you live from Harlem, New York. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And that's all I got.
Hi, everyone. My name is Clotilde Horn, and my pronouns are her and she, and I'm streaming in from Providence, Rhode Island on Nipmuc territory.
Hi, my name is Manu Kumasi. I am zooming in from Manhattan, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
Hi, my name is Makania Chesser. My pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hi, everybody. I'm KP Powell. I am coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca Samanga Frank. It's good to be here. I'm zooming in from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Happy to be here with my brothers and sisters and fam. And my pronouns are she, her, hers.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Jonathan Lewis Dent. I'm zooming in from Ridgewood, Queens. I'm excited to be here doing some Shakespeare for you guys. My pronouns are he, him, his.
Okay, we are going to start off with Brandon Burton, and he's going to perform a selection from the play Henry VI, Part 2. He's playing Richard Plantagenet, not to be confused with the Richard who becomes Richard III. This is his dad on the battlefield.
She-wolf of France. But worse than wolves of France, whose tongue more poisons than the adder's tooth. How ill-beseeming is it in thy sex to triumph like an Amazonian troll upon their woes whom fortune captivates. But that thy face is, visit like unchanging, made impudent with use of evil deeds, I would essay, proud queen, to make thee blush, to tell thee whence thou camest, of whom derived, were shame enough to shame thee, wert thou not shameless. Thy father bears the type of King of Naples, of both the Sicils and Jerusalem, yet not so wealthy as an English yeoman, had that poor monarch taught thee to insult. It needs not, nor it boots thee not, proud queen, unless the adage must be verified that beggars mounted run their horse to death. 'Tis beauty that doth oft make women proud, but God, he knows thy share thereof is small. 'Tis virtue that doth make them most admired, the contrary doth make thee wondered at. 'Tis government that makes them seem divine, the want thereof makes thee abominable. Thou art as opposite to every good as the Antipodes are unto us, or the South to the Septembrian. O tiger's heart wrapped in a woman's hide! How couldst thou drain the lifeblood of the child, to bid the father wipe his tears withal, and yet be seen to bear a woman's face? Women are soft, mild, pitiful, and flexible. Thou stern, obdurate, flinty, rough, remorseless, bidst thou me rage? Why, now thou hast thy wish, wouldst have me weep? Why, now thou hast thy will, for raging wind blow up incessant showers, and when the rage allays, the rain begins. These tears are my sweet Rutland's obsequies, and every drop cries vengeance for his death 'gainst thee, fell Clifford, and thee, false Frenchwoman.
Ooh, thank you so much, Brandon. Brandon's on fire tonight. Now let's bring on Clotilde Horn. She's playing Lady Anne in Richard III, the play that follows what we just saw. She's grieving the death of her father-in-law, King Henry VI.
Take me to the river. Take me to the river. Set down. Set down your honorable load. If honor may be shrouded in a hearse. Whilst I a while obsequiously lament the untimely fall of virtuous Lancaster. Poor key-cold figure of a holy king. Pale ashes of the house of Lancaster. Thou bloodless remnant of that royal blood. Be it lawful that I invocate thy ghost to hear the lamentations of poor Anne, wife to thy Edward, to thy slaughtered son, stabbed by the self-same hands that made these wounds. Lo, into these windows that let forth thy life, I pour the helpless balm of my poor eyes. Cursed be the hands that made these fatal holes. Cursed the heart that had the heart to do it. Cursed the blood that let this blood from hence. More direful hap betide that hated wretch that makes us wretched by the death of thee than I can wish to spiders, adders, toads, or any creeping venomed thing that lives. If ever he have child, abortive be it, prodigious and untimely brought to light, whose ugly and unnatural aspect may fright the hopeful mother at this view, and that be heir to his unhappiness. If ever he have wife, let her be made a miserable by the death of him as I am made by the death of my poor lord and thee. Come. Now towards Chertsey with your holy load, taken from Paul's to be interred there.
Thank you so much for that. Now we're gonna see a bit of Cressida from Troilus and Cressida. Manu Kumasi plays Cressida as she struggles to keep the upper hand in the face of love.
Hard to seem one, but I was one, my lord, since the first glance. Pardon me, if I confess much, you will play the tyrant. I love you now, but not till now so much. In faith, I lied. My thoughts were like unbridled children, grown too headstrong for their mothers. See, we fools, why have I blabbed? Who shall be true to us when we are so unsecret to ourselves? But though I loved you well, I wooed you not. And yet, good faith, oh, I wished I were a man, or that we women had men's privilege of speaking first. Sweet, bid me hold my tongue. Or in this rapture, I shall surely speak the thing I shall repent. See, thy silence, cunning in dumbness, from my soul draws my soul of counsel. Please stop my mouth.
Thank you so much, Manu. Next, we have a video from Makania Cheshire. Makania Cheshire, I can say her name, I promise, I can. Playing Malvolio, who is just as excited about love in the play, Twelfth Night. Here, the unsmiling Puritan discovers what he thinks is a declaration of love from his mistress, Olivia.
"'Tis but fortune, all is fortune. Mariah once told me that she did affect me, and I've heard her come thus near that should she fancy it should be one of my complexion. What should I think on't? To be Count Malvolio. Having been 3 months married to her, sitting in my state, calling all my officers about me in my brenched velvet gown, having come from a daybed where I have left Olivia sleeping. I ask for my kinsman Toby. Toby approaches, curtsies there to me. I extend my hand to him, thus saying, "You must amend your drunkenness. And besides, you waste the measure of your time with a foolish knight, one Sir Andrew." What employment have we here? Why, 'tis my lady's hand. To the unknown beloved, this and my good wishes. Oh, her very phrases. 'Tis my lady. Who should this be? Jove knows I love, but who? Lips do not move, no man must know. No man must know. Oh, what follows? The number's altered. No man must know. Oh, if this should be the Malvolio. I may command where I adore, but silence like a Lucrece knife, with bloodless stroke my heart doth gore. M-O-A-I doth sway my life. M-O-A-I doth sway my life. Nay, but first, let me see. I may command where I adore. Why, she may command me. I serve her. She is my lady. Why, this is evident to any formal capacity. There is no obstruction in this. In the end, what should that alphabetical position portend? Oh, if I can make it resemble something in me. Oh, softly, softly. M-O-A-I. M. Malvolio. M. Why, that begins my name. And every one of these letters are in my name. So. Here follows prose. If this fall into thy hand, revolve. In my stars, I am above thee, but be not afraid of greatness. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. Be opposite with the kinsman, surly with servants. Let thy tongue tang arguments of state. She thus advises thee that sighs for thee. Remember who commended thy yellow stockings and wished to see thee ever cross-gartered. I say, remember. Go to, thou art made if thou desirest to be so. If not, let me see thee a steward still, the fellow of servants, and not worthy to touch fortune's fingers. Farewell, she that would alter services with thee, the fortunate unhappy. Daylight discovers not more. I will be proud. I will baffle Sir Toby. My lady loves me. Why, she did commend my yellow stockings. She did praise my legs being cross-gartered. I thank my stars. I am happy. Here is yet a postscript. Thou canst not choose but know who I am. If thou entertainest my love, let it appear in thy smiling. Thy smiles become thee well. Therefore, in my presence still smile, dear my sweet, I prithee. Jove, I thank thee. I will smile. I will do everything that thou wilt have me.
Thank you so much. I love your smile. In contrast, Benedict in Much Ado About Nothing, who's going to be played here by KP Powell, he finds the idea of love ill-advised.
The God of love who sits above and knows me. And knows me. How pitiful I deserve. I mean in singing, but in loving. Troilus, the first employer of panders. Leander, the good swimmer, and a whole book full of these quondam carpetmongers whose names yet run smoothly in the even road of a blank verse. Why, they were never so truly turned over and over as my poor self in love. I cannot show it in rhyme. Mary, I have tried. I can find out no rhyme to lady, but baby. An innocent rhyme. For scorn, horn, a hard rhyme. For school, fool, a babbling rhyme, very ominous endings. No, I was not born under a rhyming planet, nor I cannot woo in festival terms.
Thank you so much, KP. Moving right along, we have Anthony and Cleopatra. However, they find the love that's no easier once you find your perfect mate. Please welcome Brandon Burton and Clotilde Horn as the doomed lovers.
Oh, the moment he answers his phone.
1 second. Hey.
I am sick and sullen.
I am sorry to give breathing to my purpose. There's a whole...
Help me away, dear Charmian, I shall fall. It cannot be thus long. The sides of nature will not sustain it.
Now, my dearest queen.
Pray you, stand further from me.
We're on it. What's the matter?
I know from that same eye there's some good news. What says the married woman? You may go. Would she had never given you leave to come? Let her not say, 'tis I that keep you here. I have no power upon you. Hers you are.
The gods best know.
Never was their queen so mightily betrayed. Yet at the first I saw the treasons planted.
Cleopatra.
Why should I think it be mine and true? Though you in swearing shake the throned gods who have been false to Fulvia. Riotous madness, to be entangled with those mouth-made vows which break themselves in swearing.
Most sweet queen.
Oh, I would I had thy inches. Thou shouldst know there was a queen here in Egypt.
Hear me, lady. The strong necessity of time commands our services a while, but my full heart remains in use with you. Our Italy stands o'er with civil swords. Sextus Pompeius makes his approaches to the port of Rome. Equality of two domestic powers breeds scrupulous faction. The hated, grown to strength, are newly grown to love. The condemned at Pompey, rich in his father's honor, creeps apace into the hearts as such as that of thrives upon the present state, whose numbers threaten. In quietness, grown sick of rest, would purge by any desperate change. My more particular, in that which most with you should safe my going, is Fulvia's death.
Though age from folly could not give me freedom, it does from childishness. What, can Fulvia die?
She's dead, my queen. Look here. At thy sovereign leisure read. The garboil she awaked at the last best see when and where she died.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Most false love.
Oh my God.
Where be these sacred vials thou shouldst fill with sorrowful water? Oh, now I see, in Fulvia's death how mine received shall be.
Quarrel no more, but be prepared to know the purposes I bear, which are or cease as you shall give the advice. By the fire that quickens Nilus' slime, I go from hence, thy soldier servant, making peace or war as thou affects.
Ooh, cut my lace, Charmian. Come. Ooh, wait, no. But let it be.
Oh my God.
Quickly ill and well, so Antony loves.
My precious queen, forbear, and give true evidence to his love, which stands in honorable trial.
So Fulvia told me. I prithee, turn aside and weep for her, then bid adieu to me and say the tears belong to Egypt. Oh, good. Now play one scene of excellent dissembling and let it look like perfect honor.
You'll heat my blood no more.
Better yet. But this is neatly.
Now by my sword.
Target. Still, he mends. Oh, but this is not the best. Look, Charmian, look how this Herculean Roman does become the carriage of his chafe.
I'll leave you, lady.
Courteous lord, one word. Sir, you and I must part. But that's not it. But sir, you and I have loved. There's not it, that you know well. Something it is I would. Oh. Oh, my oblivion is a very Antony, and I am all forgotten.
Oh, but that your royalty holds idleness or substance. I should take you for idleness itself. Don't.
It's sweating labor to bear such idleness so near the heart as Cleopatra this. But sir, forgive me. Since my becomings kill me when they do not eye well to you. Your honor calls you hence. Therefore be deaf to my unpitied folly, and all the gods go with you. Upon your sword, sit laurel victory, and smooth success be strewed before your feet.
Let us go. Come. Our separation so abides and flies that thou, residing here, goest yet with me, and I, hence fleeting, remain here with thee. Away.
Thank you, Brandon and Clotilde. Changing things up a little bit here. Here's Rebecca Smanga Frank with Shylock from Merchant of Venice. And I'm just gonna let her introduce herself.
Hello, is this thing on? Okay, just give me a second here. Trying to hide myself. Not doing this very often. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, I'm so sorry. Anyway, for those that you don't know me, there it is. It's very difficult, all these fancy things. Okay, for you who don't know me, I'm Rebecca's Jewish grandmother. We're Jewish. Happy Hanukkah, everybody. She said she's never seen anybody, an older woman do this. I said, I'm not that old, but sign me up. It's fine. Here we go. Oh, a little context. So they ask Shylock, what are you going to do with a pound of flesh? He says, what am I going to do with it? I'll tell you what I'm going to do with it. This is what he's going to do. Okay. To bait fish withal. If it will feed nothing else, it'll feed my revenge. He hath disgraced me and hindered me 500,000. He laughed at my losses, mocked my gains, scorned my nation, thwarted my bargains. He cooled my friends, heated mine enemies. And what's his reason? I'm a Jew. Hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions? Fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian is. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you and the rest, we will resemble you in that. If a Jew wrong a Christian, what is his humility? Revenge. If a Christian wrong a Jew, what should his sufferance be by Christian example? Why revenge? The villainy you teach me, I will execute, and it shall go hard. But I will better the instruction. Okay, thank you very much. Everybody have a very beautiful Hanukkah and Chag Sameach to you all. Thank you very much. You've been lovely, wonderful audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Moving right along, we're going to stay with Merchant of Venice. We're going to welcome Laconia back as she plays Portia's famous appeal for mercy from the end of the play.
The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. 'Tis mightiest in the mightiest. It becomes the throned monarch better than his crown. His scepter shows the force of temporal power, the attribute to awe and majesty, wherein doth sit the dread and fear of kings. But mercy is above this sceptred sway. It is enthroned in the hearts of kings. It is an attribute to God himself. And earthly power doth then show like God's when mercy seasons justice. Therefore, Jew, though justice be thy plea, consider this, that in the course of justice, none of us should see salvation. We do pray for mercy.
Thank you, Maconia. Manu Kumasi as the newly crowned King Henry V. He must deal with his own reputation by confronting his old mentor, Falstaff, in the final act of Henry IV, Part 2.
I know thee not, old man, fall to thy prayers. How ill white hairs become a fool and jester. I have long dreamt of such a man, so surfeit swelled, so old and so profane. But being awake, I do despise my dream. Make less thy body hence and more thy grace. Leave gormandizing. Know the grave doth gape for thee thrice wider than for other men. Reply not to me with a fool-born jest. Presume not that I am the thing I was, for God doth know, so shall the world perceive that I have turned away my former self. So shall I those that kept me company. When thou dost hear I am as I have been, approach me, and thou shalt be as thou was, the tutor and the feeder of my riots. Till then, I banish thee on pain of death, as I have done the rest of my misleaders, not to come near our person by 10 miles. For competence of life, I will allow, but lack of means enforce you not to evils. And as we hear you do reform yourselves, we shall, according to your strengths and qualities, give you advancement. In your charge, my lord, to see perform the tenors of our word. Sit on.
Thank you, Manu. We have Benvolio and Romeo, who are thick as thieves in Romeo and Juliet, here played by Jonathan Lewis Dent and Rebecca Smanga Frank.
See where he comes. So please you step aside. I'll know his grievance or be much denied. Good morrow, cousin.
Is the day so young?
What new? Struck 9.
Ay me, sad hours seem long. Was that my father that went hence so fast?
It was? What sadness lengthens Romeo's hours?
Not having that which having makes them short.
In love?
Out.
Of love?
Out of her favor, where I am in love.
Alas, that love, so gentle in his view, should be so tyrannous and rough in proof.
Alas, that love whose view is muffled still should without eyes see pathways to his will. Where shall we dine? Huh. Oh, me. What fray was here? Ah, no, but tell me not. I have heard it all. Here is much to do with hate, but more with love. Why then? Oh, brawling love. Oh, loving hate. Oh, anything of nothing first created. Oh, heavy lightness. Serious vanity. Misshapen chaos of well-seeming forms. Feather of lead. Bright smoke. Cold fire. Sick health. Still waking sleep. That is not what it is. This love feel I, that feel no love in this. Does that not laugh?
No, cuz I'd rather weep.
Good heart at what?
At thy good heart's oppression.
Why, such is love's transgression. Love is a smoke raised with the fume of sighs. Being purged, a fire sparkling in lover's eyes. Being vexed, a sea nourished with lover's tears. What is it else? A madness most discreet, a choking gall, a preserving sweet. Farewell, my cuz.
So I will go along, and if you leave me thus, you do me wrong.
Tut, I've lost myself. I am not here. This is not Romeo. He is some other where.
Tell me in sadness, who is that you love?
What? Shall I groan and tell thee?
Grown? Why, no, but sadly, tell me who.
In sadness, cousin, I do love a woman.
I aimed so near when I supposed you loved.
A right good markman, and she's fair, I love.
A right fair mark, fair cuz, is soonest hit.
Well, in that hit you miss. She'll not be hit with Cupid's arrow, she hath Dian's wit. And in strong proof of chastity well armed, from love's weak, childish bow she lives unharmed.
Then she hath sworn that she will still live chaste?
She hath. And in that sparing makes huge waste. For beauty starved with her severity cuts beauty off from all posterity. She is too fair, too wise, wisely too fair, to merit bliss by making me despair. She hath forsworn to love, and in that vow do I live dead that live to tell it now.
Be ruled by me. Forget to think of her.
Oh, teach me how I should forget to think.
Giving liberty unto thine eyes. Examine other beauties.
'Tis the way to call hers exquisite. In question more. Oh, show me a mistress that is passing fair. What doth her beauty serve but as a note, where I may read who passed that passing fair? Farewell. Thou canst not teach me to forget.
I'll pay that doctrine or else die in debt.
Thank you, Jonathan and Rebecca. And no evening celebrating Shakespeare would be complete without the Scottish King. With that, please welcome back Brandon Burton.
Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. and all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Thank you very much, Brandon. And finally, I am Gracie Brown. What a piece of work is man. How noble in reason, how infinite in fact, in form and moving, how express and admirable. In action, how like an angel. In apprehension, how like a god. The beauty of the world, the paragon of diamonds. And yet, to me, what is this quintessence of dust? Man delights not me, no, nor woman neither. Though by your smiling, you seem to say so. Okay, I would like to invite all of our actors to turn their cameras on. Mute yourselves. And let's have a little conversation. First of all, thank you all very much. I don't even know what to say other than thank you. It was beautiful to watch all the different individual pieces. You know, we're gonna do a little Q&A between the panelists and just between us. And while we're doing that, you can go ahead and if you have any questions for us, you can put them in the Q&A section right on Zoom. Preferably, hopefully, if some end up in chat, we'll bring them over and we'll find them. So first thing I want to ask you guys is why did you choose the piece that you did? And why are you passionate about it?
I'll jump in. No, Brando.
I was gonna say, should we go in order? Like, should we go in running order? Or should we go in reverse running order? So I did the Richard Plantagenet one because I think it's easy to misconstrue that moment as like as he hates women, which I think can be true, but I also think that there's a greater context of a human, Margaret, killed his son, which is not a honorable thing to do in war. And it's a reminder to me that oftentimes we don't have to be so polite when someone does wrong by us. We can afford to be ruthless and rude. We can afford to be honest. We can afford to be demeaning. We can afford to be a lot of things because sometimes when we're staring in the face of death, considering a lot of the things that have happened in the last couple of years, even this past summer, in a pandemic, it's sometimes turning the other cheek isn't the option. And then tomorrow is like that's how every day feels in quarantine feels like that speech. It just feels some days it's really great, but then other days it's tough. And so today I wanted to face how tough it was. And I also like arguing with Clotilde, so that's why I did Nancy and Cleopatra.
I feel like it's only fair that I get to say I also love arguing with Brandon. But those two such titans, you know, and to their frailty of like not being able to like you know, wear their heart on their sleeves. And like what I think that that's a really, I don't know, as a Black woman, I'm always exploring that, right? There's like the archetype of the strong Black woman, but then there's also all this tenderness that, like, especially once you move into leadership, like it can get kind of muddled and sometimes it's hard to know when to let down your guard and when not to. And I'm always really interested in exploring that via Cleopatra. And then also, you know, Lady Anne. I mean, I found my way to that monologue during the pandemic, really, because it feels like, you know, there was so much Black death and there has been so much Black death that like, and I'm one of 10 kids and I have brothers that I love so dearly. And like, just how do I process the loss that, you know, that I'm experiencing within my community and within my family, and like how, you know, and I just think that there's a righteous rage and a grief that is so sharp that, you know, that cuts around these words that she forms. And I really needed that in the middle of this, all the time, really, but particularly during this moment.
I'll jump in. Let's see. What's coming to mind, why I chose these has a lot to do with the invitation and the spirit of fun, which I was reminded of when we were meeting earlier, that this was a celebration. Like, I think the email that Rebecca sent us was like, what was it? Invitation to play or something.
Yeah.
And that sometimes the spirit of that is really goes a long way. I think I'm drawn, or this is a bit to what the conversation can become, in grad school was drawn to the more serious aspects of Shakespeare as, you know, a 6-foot Black, Jewish, all the intersections woman, but you know what I mean, to hold a lot of that stuff. And so, so when I was trying to find something, I was like, I want to do something with a friend. And JD is my brother and homie for life from NYU grad classmate. And so, yeah, I remember I directed Romeo and Juliet once, and this relationship always seemed so fun. These like homies, and then I think fun plus what feels still transgressive. So there's something about like, well, I've never had the opportunity to say any Romeo words, and you know, I love saying I love a woman, and all of the joy that kind of comes from that. Similarly with Shylock, never having even touched that, and being a Jewish person. And then, of course, the inherent racism inside of my Jewish community that assumes that Jews are not of color when we're, you know, 1 million strong and plus. So that was joyful, as well as this character. Enough said. Pass.
Yeah, I can jump in. Rebecca reached out to me with the scene already in mind, and I have been in Romeo and Juliet a couple of times as Tybalt, and it was really therapeutic, and it felt very nice on my spirit to tap into Shakespeare joy and not death. I feel like often as a Black actor work within this world of Shakespearean text, I am often cast as the, you know, the instigator of violence, the soulless, dark soldier, you know. So to be able to play with a friend of mine who I love very dearly and just have it be light and bright. Like, I remember being in Romeo and Juliet rehearsals and watching Benvolio and Romeo kick it and talk, and I was like, oh, I would love to do that too. But here I gotta be worried about trying to, you know, fight everybody on stage, ultimately die. So this was a nice departure from the norm for me. And it, you know, Shakespeare, as you know, he's a genius. He's able to tap into so many different emotions, and the way that he expresses friendship and joy is really quite special. So it was great to do that with somebody that I feel so connected to.
Nice.
I'll pick up on that. For me, it was also, it was also about joy. Because Malvolio, I've played it before, so being able to revisit it, like Malvolio wasn't a character I ever thought that I would want to play, but when I did get to, I was able to find like all these levels of like joy and loneliness and longing, and so to be able to go back to it again is one of the reasons that I chose it for tonight. The other one that I did, Portia from Merchant, you know, like just struggling with, especially in this time, trying to figure out how to break out from some of the restraints that I've placed on myself, you know, how to, when I approach people who I feel like are infringing on my freedoms or infringing on who I am, like, am I gonna call them in or am I gonna call them out? And I read this opinion piece. It was about Lovecraft, but it was talking about imagining a world where we don't use the tools of the oppressor to dismantle it or to take down the oppressor. So then that brought me back to this monologue about, you know, mercy or grace. How much of that do we still need to keep into the picture? How much do we need to keep that at the forefront as we, you know, fight against the folk? All right, that's it.
My reason for choosing my piece was just from a very technical standpoint. I was able to see what everybody else was going to do, and so I just tried to choose something that wasn't any of that. So I'd say, like, what don't we have yet in the night? And so I was like, all right, well, like, how about something short? And how about something like wildly silly? I had no idea at the time how Rebecca was going to do Shylock. I would have chose something way different. I saw that and I was like, well, we didn't need this. Didn't know Julie Grandmas was coming in. But no, yeah, I went to Benedict because I love the character and I love the person. I was like, all right, let's try to choose one of his monologues people don't think about all the time when they think about, you know, and I want to do it in ways people probably never see and try to surprise people. Because, you know, like you said, it's a night of fun. So I said, all right, let me bring the epitome of fun, which is watching a person mess up in every way they can.
That was so fun. That's very joyful. Thank you for bringing that. Just gotta say.
For my two, I chose Cressida from Joyce and Cressida and Henry V, right when he becomes 5, because two are just favorite pieces of mine. I have been acting now for about 10 years, and I'm starting to feel like this is an instrument that I'm crafting as opposed to, like, you know, I don't know anything else. And the two pieces that I always love to come back to, Cressida is sweet and naive, not in terms of ignorance, but just, you know, inexperience, in a way that I think it's so easy for us to move past that place into a place of jadedness or skepticism, or, you know, looking to see who's playing what game. And it's fun to play in someone that you know, isn't as, you know, going as fast mentally like that. And Henry V or Henry IV Part 2, I think it's going to stay with me forever. Just the relationship between the men, specifically Hal and his two fathers, of course, you know, being his biological father and Falstaff. I think is just a great relationship. And it being the end of the play going into Henry V, when he breaks up with Falstaff, I think is just it's a beautiful thing. It's rich. It's right.
Yes. I'll full disclosure, I picked Hamlet because, you know, it's one of those roles that I didn't think was for me. Basically, any kind of male role, I never really thought about, you know, what I would look like or be, you know, doing that part. And I really, I fell in love with What a Piece of Work is Man, literally, not even through Shakespeare, but through the musical Hair. There's a song that they literally take What a Piece of Work is Man and turn it into a song. It's beautiful. And I always love that. So when she asked me, you know, what monologue I wanted to do, I decided to just kind of break from all the norms that and the places that that I put myself in and that people have put me in. So it was, I guess it brings me to representation, you know? The fact that I don't think I've ever seen many Black Romeos, Juliet, you know, Hamlet. It's a big deal that there's not many, actors of color that have done Hamlet. So, I mean, being on screen or on stage with a bunch of BIPOC actors is like a rare experience for me specifically. So maybe you guys can share the thoughts as to how important it is to have BIPOC actors in classical plays. Brandon, I know you had something to say about that, or at least touch on that subject.
Always.
So I'm gonna give it up to you. Go for it.
Always. I mean, I think when we met earlier, we talked a little bit about it, but I remembered that Kendrick Lamar won a Pulitzer Prize. And I remember that people can sit and listen to A$AP Rocky and pick up on the metaphors and the layering in one listen. Like this language, this way of speaking, this way of thinking has always been a part, I think, of certainly the Black experience. In America, it comes from an oral tradition. And I think that it's a sin that a lot of us feel like it's not for us. Because the way, as everyone spoke about tonight, the way that he writes, the way that Shakespeare writes, whatever, the way that it happens on the page is so full of experience. And every single one of us can come and bring our individual experience, and the text can hold whatever we want, whatever we bring to it, I should say. It is built, I think, in a way, it's like kind of built for us. It's built for our ways of thinking. It's built for our ways of speaking, of interacting with each other, I mean, Benvolio and Romeo joan on each other. They snap, they roast, they, you know what I mean? Like these are all, Antony and Cleopatra are constantly poking each other. There's so much of us reflected in the text that it is as much ours, if not more so ours, I will say, than I think any of the other classical texts.
Yeah, I have, because I so want to echo what Jonathan was talking about with how we get cast, because representation, whenever people think about representation, they always think about hitting the number as opposed to what part do I play in the story. If we're doing Hamlet and Laertes is always the Black person, what are you saying? If it's always Tybalt, if it's like who do we get to be? Like it's, and I think that goes so much further than just race, right? Because it's like, all right, well, are you telling me that only skinny people get to play Romeo and Juliet? Like, where does it say that they have to be that way? So you're telling the people watching, this is what lovers look like. These people are allowed to fall in love. So if I can't play Romeo, you're telling your whole audience, including the Black people coming to see Shakespeare, oh, I don't get to be a part of that story. That's my story. And so whether you're Black, whether you're Asian, what ages you choose, what size you choose, hair color, hair length, like all of that is you telling people like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. And we ingest that. So, how many kids growing up are thinking, oh, what masculinity is you have to be 6'4", you got to be built like The Rock, you got to never cry, you got to blah, blah, blah. Like, and Shakespeare has all this opportunity where people are vulnerable and people talk about their feelings and their love and they express themselves. And so what actor, what empath doesn't want to be a part of that in every aspect? All of us are like, oh, I want to play Hamlet, but I want to play Lady M, but I would love a chance to do that play, but I would love a chance. Like, we all want to have a chance to be human. And so the moment you keep putting us in a box, you are telling us to take a part of our humanity and never access it. And that makes it hard for all of us as humans to interact when we run into stuff like elections every 4 years, because I only ever access this part of my humanity. So how can I understand you over here when you're coming from this part?
Yeah, a few months ago, I got to work with beloved Ty Defoe and Southwest, I guess, what is it, Southwest Shakespeare Company, and they we did I was like the only Black person in the room, really, and there was like a bunch of indigenous artists who from, you know, so many different, you know, communities, tribes, places around the world, and that was such a learning experience for me because Leslie Ishii of Perseverance Theater Company, like, came in and did breath work with us just so that we can find our natural breathing patterns and how they're reflected in the rhythm of the text. And we got to apply that to A Midsummer Night's Dream. And like, it was truly a revelation. I was like, oh, fuck, I don't have all this stuff that through my training has been like infused in me around don't break the meter, okay, you know, all this stuff like literally has like driven me away from my own rhythm, which, you know, in Santiago Hudson always like run everything like August Wilson, you know, and run Wilson like Shakespeare, you know, like that it's that in that rhythm is something that we carry, that every culture carries. But you know, some rhythms really be popping, and I'm just saying. So I'm with it.
I had a thought earlier. I was thinking about like all the productions that I've actually done, and I've actually never done an all Black Shakespeare production. And there's been a production that was done at Yale that's been referenced in a lot of these talks, so we really should start paying Carl for talking about his show so much.
Yes.
But it was a production of a production of 12th Night, and it was mostly all Black. And in what stays with me is in the director's note, Carl said that he wanted to, it was set in the future, so he wanted to create an environment where Black people felt free to be themselves in all spaces. And I mean, and that was achieved in this production. I mean, it was amazing. I saw the very last show, so I wish I could have seen it more. So I'm just thinking, like, I've never experienced that, and I just think that would just blow my mind. Like, I've never even been directed by a Black person or a person of color. All the people who've directed me in Shakespeare have been white men and one woman, one white woman. Has anyone else been in productions of all Black people or all people of color, BIPOC people?
I was so lucky that I came into Shakespeare with the African American Shakespeare Company in San Francisco, which was, I mean, but was basically an almost all Black cast. And L. Peter Callender runs that, and that's actually where I met Rebecca, now the AD of this theater. So that's pretty spectacular and rare. But one thing that was so nice about it, with like the difference of having Black like administrators and Black like leadership, is that that's just something that really is missed in almost every other experience I have, that is kind of unquantifiable. Like, you know, where casting and size and, you know, is not so, you know, we were talking earlier, like the points were so beautiful, which is that if you put these boxes are actually so well worn that we think that, oh, this is the Black one that we cast the Black person in this role. And we think that's diverse, and it's just as oppressive, because we're now, you know, we're continuing over and over again, you know, oh, James Earl Jones did that, and, you know, one of those sisters is Black, and we have this weird balance of like how, you know, we did one Black person here, the woman over here, and it's just as oppressive because, you know, we can't break out of that. So that was one thing that part of being part of an entire company whose mission is about Black people and people of color in it is just very different than any other experience I've had. But I also will say that in casting and in just the vibe of a room, you know, being in a room, I was so lucky I was in a room with Patricia McGregor. The energy of a director, a Black director, saying, this is how we're going to vibe, and this is the type of language we're going to use. And it was so different to relax and realize that I've internalized how to be and act in quote unquote white spaces to the point where I'm not even conscious I'm doing it until I relax with my people in a different way. And what does that do for the work? And what does that do for my cells? And what does that do for, you know, the people watching it? But that's the freedom that I think I'm getting better at discerning in this time.
I shout out to Makania because I was actually in that production of 12th Night that Carpool Phil directed. And you know, I wasn't gonna jump in because I was like, I don't really have anything to add. But in hearing what you were saying, and Rebecca, and hearing what you were saying, I was reminded of the fact that being in that production, directed by Carl, it took me personally, and I'll speak for other members of the cast too, it took me like a week and change to actually go, oh no, like this is a room full of people of color. Like this is an actual thing. And I think because I was at grad school at Yale at the time, and knowing that Yale is, you know, Yale is Yale. It's probably one of the, you know, the whitest institutions, historically white institutions. Let me not say what they are now. Historically white institutions that you can find. And I remember being in that space and feeling like it was a little like nook carved out, but it was still in a much bigger space that I was aware of. But I will say the first, before we even did the table read, there was a, the choreographer, Byron Easley, I believe is his first name, Byron Easley. He had everybody get up, and like everyone, not just like the cast, but like everyone involved. And we had like a group circle, and we just we were all dancing together and had an opportunity to do our own solos, and we went around the entire room. And I remember that was one of the things that made me feel the most nervous, because even though I like to dance, I like to be out there, I like to mix it up, I remember being in that space and being like, as much as this is a theater and we're supposed to be like free, I'm like, I don't know, man. Is this cool? Is this actually okay? So I remember it took me like a week and change to actually go, oh wait, this is a safe space, not just for me as an artist in, you know, an institution where I have to be aware of everything, but this is a safe space. And Carl himself is specifically holding the space for people of color to explore things that, you know, we wouldn't have the freedom to play with. We would feel the need to explain ourselves or to try a different choice that we think would translate to an audience that's different from the people that we know from back home. So I will say it definitely makes a major difference. Like the way that we came together because of the different space that we were in. And also, you know, hands down, the direction of the show was, there's students on this call. The direction of the show was freaking amazing. And that helped. So it does definitely make a big difference, especially when the person holding the space, the director, is just grounded in themselves and can say, hey, I'm gonna hold this space for everyone in this production to expand. Which if Carl wasn't the director, props to Carl, because this is a Carl Snaps moment. But I don't think if Carl was comfortable with himself enough to hold the space for other people, then this could have turned out into a production where it is, you know, a people of color production, but it isn't really a people of color production.
Yes. Does somebody else have something to say about that? No? Thought I heard something. Well, it feels like I saw that production too, and it was, it's funny because I always said that I wait every year, because I would get free tickets to Yale Rep because of one of the jobs that I had. So every year it was date night. We're gonna go see whatever's going on at Yale Rep. And I always got excited about the Black show, right? Which one's gonna be the Black show that I can go and see and feel like, you know, I'm seeing myself on stage and what have you. And this particular production, as soon as it started, I was just started bawling. I had never seen all Black production of Shakespeare, let alone directed also. And I was like second row and just back like this. It was mind blowing. And we stayed, that day they had a talk back session afterwards. And stayed for the talk back. It was a matinee, that's what I went to. Matinee, stayed for the talk back, and my husband, who's not, doesn't really necessarily care for Shakespeare, to put it mildly. And he literally, he's like, hand up. He's like, why are we doing this? Why is this relevant right now? Like, I want, it's an honest answer. Why? And some of the answers that came were just somewhere a little bit unexpected. Like, I understand why you're asking, why are we doing this? Why are we doing these plays, these 400-year-old plays for these white man? Why? And some of them were, you know, if you can unlock Shakespeare, then you're golden. You can do anything else as far as that goes. You can figure that out, you figure it out. That's what some people say. So I'm asking, as far as like, why should theaters do Shakespeare in 2020? And how, if they should do them, how should theaters do Shakespeare in 2020?
I think Shakespeare should be done in 2020 because it's a good reminder for people to clap on the 2 and the 4 and not on the 1 and the 3.
Yes, yes.
It's a rhythmic, and it is I think that also, like, we spend so much time behind screens. We spend so much time avoiding conflict and friction. We spend so much time avoiding any sort of interaction, and Shakespeare demands that you pay attention to what people say. It demands that you care a little bit more. It demands that you pump your empathy muscle. And so I think that's why, but mostly because it reminds us to clap in the 2 and the 4.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can jump in. I think Shakespeare is some of the best medicine we have for the way that we're trending in society. Our attention spans are truncating. We live in a society and culture of distraction, and Shakespeare, as Brandon was just saying, it demands attention. It demands a different type of listening. And I think, and I feel very strongly that if we as a society could lean into the type of listening required to listen to a Shakespeare play, I think we would see each other better as contemporaries. We wouldn't be so quick to cancel, we would be able to stomach the art of disagreeing more than we have right now. I think we have lost our sensibilities a bit in terms of being able to tolerate long-winded conversation, because we want to go to our phones, we want to go to the internet, we want to go to everything that is so immediately gratified for our senses, and it is literally, I think, changing the way that our consciousness is interacting. So Shakespeare, I think, is one of the best things and tools that we can use to ground ourselves in our humanness, and it will make us more empathetic to the differences amongst us.
Yes.
Yeah, Jonathan, I'm all about that. What I really appreciate is that, like, Shakespeare is a somatic experience, you know, and like more and more I am learning. It's like a full body exercise. It's like it requires the intellect, the spirit, the body, all to be in, you know, concordance. And there's something deeply healing about engaging in something as vigorous as that. And then to have folks witnessing that, you know, and I really think that, like, I learned this again and again, but I'm always grateful for the reminder that unless our bodies learn the lesson, their healing cannot occur. So unless we are able to live experiences through our bodies, and like our bodies can learn a new pattern and habituate a new thing, we're not going to learn those lessons. So so I'm so grateful for this invitation for us to embody new stories, or stories that may feel, you know, unfamiliar to ourselves, and to teach them something new. And I think that whether someone's witnessing that or whether they're embodying it themselves, that's important. So just the somatic healing that can come from Shakespeare, I think it needs to be, I do think it should be taught. I think we need to change the lens in which we teach it in, facts, but but I do think that if we can shake it off of its foothold of white supremacy, we can do some deep healing.
Yes, I love that. In the body. I will add quickly the that it doesn't have to be done all the time. There's a lot of other things to do, right? And for me, the reason to do it is to challenge and to imagine, which I experienced both anytime that I was in it, like at NYU, we had a chance to do it in the first year for nobody, just us, but playing Desdemona, right? Like, or directing it and being like, what can I fuck up here? Like, that was the only thing that really got me interested, was to set it in Oakland and do it in a church with, local Oakland actors and, with designers that were local, and like create this Oakland experience and see through that lens what was gleaned from this Romeo and Juliet. Like, so anyway, something about that, as I write too, is all about, well, I don't want to be precious with it. I'm not interested in that. I'm not a purist in that way. I'm interested in the challenging and in what can I imagine in this to really break out of some of those holes we were talking about earlier.
Yes. Does anyone have any ideas as to how you should do Shakespeare in 2020? How are we gonna shake it up?
Do it well.
That's one.
I mean,
yes.
Teach. I think that, as Clotilde pointed out earlier, we shouldn't, and as Rebecca doubled down on, we should not be teaching any young actor to be precious with this language. It does not want to be handled with care. It wants to be thrown up against the wall and see where the blood splatter is. Like, it does not want to be precious. It's if we teach it better, it will be performed better. And when we perform it better, we can learn a little bit better.
I think it should be done if you have a point of view about the story that needs to be told. Not if you have an idea and you're just going to change all of Shakespeare's stuff to suit your idea, so that way you don't have to write anything. You can get audiences to come based off his name and his stuff, and don't have to pay royalties to anybody. Like, write your own shit if that's what you want to do. But if you like Rebecca's talking about, like, no, I had this idea about Oakland. It's like, great, you had an idea through that story that you had to express. Tell that so that people can see that. Like, one of the things that makes it not good for me so often is if I go there and I go, so, what do you want me to feel when I leave? Like, if you're gonna do Romeo and Juliet, what is the story you're trying to tell? Are you trying to tell a story that, like, young love is going to teach the old people about, like, the error of their ways, like a younger generation teaching a newer generation? Are you going to talk about how the feud is the problem? Are you going to talk about how their love is a problem? How are you going to talk about how the friar's giving bad advice? Like, what's the story you're trying to tell? Which is a part of casting. Like, if you put me in that role, that's the story you're trying to tell. But I only want to see Shakespeare if, like, I do stand-up comedy and I'm a fan of it. And, like, one of the things that, like, makes a great comedian is you can tell within the first 10 seconds if you're going to be taken care of. Like, whether you like Dave Chappelle or not, when he walks up on the stage, you feel like you've got me. The night is yours. If I'm, I can tell from the first scene of Shakespeare, like, oh, this is going to be long, versus like, oh, you got me. I'm taken care of. I know that you thought about the story, the craft, the costumes, like, you're going to take me on a journey. And that's all we ever want when we go to a play, to Netflix, to anything, is go tell me a story. And if you want to use Shakespeare, he's got some of the best stories. So if you got an idea, I want to see it. If you don't, stay off the stage.
To KP's point, if you listen to what the story, if you listen to what Shakespeare is trying to teach us, and there's a lot of things, and also listen to what we need to learn in 2020, then the ideas will come. But as KP said, if you try to shoehorn an idea into Shakespeare, it ain't gonna work. You're clapping on the 1 and the 3. You got to get in that 2 and the 4. You got to listen to the rhythm. You got to let it take you. You can't dictate it. It has to inform you of what it wants to be, not the other way around.
I mean, I keep harkening back, maybe because it's so fresh for me, having just come out of graduate school, but like, until these training programs can shake, and I'm sorry, I'm a cuss, can shake the shit off of themselves, like, unless they can do that, like, don't be teaching nobody how to do no Shakespeare, don't be trying to, colonize anyone's speech and patterns. Like, I just feel like there's a whole generation of actors who have to rediscover it. And I think that unless we're teaching our artists to bring their full selves and creating spaces that are safe for them to bring their full selves into spaces and containers, like into the text, and like teaching them to be fearless in that, then I think we're always going to run the risk of Shakespeare that is harmful, because I cannot continue to sit through a rehearsal room in which I bring up racial issues around this play that you said you wanted to do, and you don't even understand, you're ill-equipped to have the conversation. You don't understand how it affects the story. And I'm sitting here having to do double work. I gotta administrate for you, I gotta educate, I have to act. Like it's just it's too much. And I think that that's definitely true in educational environments. And I feel like until we can fully claim ourselves, we're running a risk.
Yeah. Talking about training, you guys are willing to tell me what was your training like? Like, what do you wish you had? What do you wish you didn't have? What did you want your teachers to know or do? That you can give a little bit of advice to the up and comings.
I can hop in. So I went to NYU grad acting with Rebecca, and what I still feel to this day is I don't think my white professors acknowledged enough how difficult that we were playing. Me and my white peers were on different levels. It means something very different for me as a melanated man to try to embody Vershinen, for instance, from Three Sisters, as that's a very different experience than my white classmate Brian trying to do that. And that's no shade against Brian, but I felt like my teachers never acknowledged the different level of the playing game, And I also think I went 3 years in one of the best programs that you can go to study acting, and I didn't utter any August Wilson, not once. And, there is this, the game is rigged towards certain white men playwrights. And these white men are geniuses, but they are not the full canon. And I feel a bit robbed of being able, when I graduated from NYU, I went and I did Skeleton Crew, Dominique Morceau at the Huntington. It was an incredible experience. Her work is incredible. I remember sitting in a talk back with one of my classmates who came to see the show from NYU. And I'm talking to her afterwards, and she was like, damn, I never seen you act like that. And I was like, yeah, you never seen me be Black before, have you? It's a whole different experience. I'm pretty good at being Black, huh? Yeah, right? Different acting experience, isn't it? Yeah. Now you have a slither, like a small taste of what it was like to sit in the cut and watch all my white peers get to do work that they can be cast as. While I'm sitting there trying to figure out how I can pretend to be this Russian commander. And I get it, that's the gig. We're all trying to put on different robes and garments. I get it. But the game is rigged. And I don't think these grad school programs are talking about that. Not the way they need to be.
Yeah. Shout out to the Russian commander.
I just want to say that as much as I'm giving a side eye to Brown Trinity, where I just graduated from, I'm also like, I got to do one of the hardest things ever, which we did a bilingual production of Comedy of Errors. Ooh. And I, being from California, I know a little bit of Spanish, but I had to learn a whole nother language, or at least how to speak this text in Spanish. And that was one of the greatest Shakespeare experiences that I had, to have to it helped me move with my phonetics. It helped me, understand a language and understand what's, all of that stuff. And playing with the form around that was really empowering, and also gave my Latinx director, who was in my cohort, an opportunity to express through Shakespeare, you know, her culture and what she sees and how she hears language. So like, you know, mixing it up in that way.
Yes. I'm sorry, Rebecca, were you going to say something? Go ahead.
I was just going to offer, if there are any students, one, reach out. I mean, we can easily connect. I think it's really important to have mentorship, actually, because that's something I did not have in school and really, really needed, because the whitewashing is just so complete that you just think that, oh, everything is the same for all of us. It's going to be the same when we get out. It is not. But what I wanted to add in was be brave to bring in more of yourself. And that is something as a very intersectional being with, you know, Jewish and Black, and I'm African and daughter of immigrants, and I have all this extended family, and we're all gay. And it was just like, everything is just so much things that I could only be this, right? And I don't fit that because I'm all of this. And that's the same inside of the Black community. We're not a monolith. So that is, I mean, when you're quote unquote just Black, right? But either way you're seen, it's like, be brave to be like, no, I'm super into punk. Like, I need to bring that with me so that I can truly be seen. And then people can make space for you. And that's something that my teacher once, Lisa Benavides, said. She was like, can we make more room for Rebecca? I'm 6 foot. I'm 6 foot in this acting program, acting with, you know, men at this size. And she was like, we'll adjust. And I cried, right? I had never, ever had somebody say, oh, look, it looks like you need more space. I didn't think I need more space. I'm this all the time. And we will adjust so that you can be your full size. That is the best option of grad school. But not everybody's going to notice that or say that. You have to bring all of yourself and just all the time. No, I'm more than that. I'm more than this.
Rebecca, Makania, and Gracie, I don't know if you noticed this, but in the Q&A, there was a beautiful question offered up, that the question is, what do you say to a Black female actor who is scared to pursue acting in theater because of how the industry treats Black people, or specifically Black people? That. Well, I think it's a powerful question, and one that, even though like I'm in the middle of building a career and in a career, like it's a real question. And I want to say that we got you. I feel like I'm in spaces that are building and are dreaming and strategizing about how to make this industry a better place, from the We See You White American Theater container to the work that I am experiencing through Art Equity and so many other containers, because these are just containers, and people are charting ways and changing systems and challenging these the white supremacy that like these structures are built out of, you know, that there are whole handbooks that like this plantation model, like that entire systems and regional theater systems are built off of. And I just want to say that like, I understand what it means to be afraid. There are times when I'm still afraid, but I know that there's something beyond my fear, and that there is someone else on the other side waiting for me to stand up and stand in my courage, and to surround yourself with your sister cohort, you know, like we need one another, you know, especially as no more divisiveness, but just like utter support and cheering one another on. I don't know. Makania, Gracie.
Yes, I definitely. Go ahead,
I think that
Makania,
was
you go ahead.
articulated very well. I don't think I can add any. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think that was articulated very well, and I don't think I could add anything to it. That is and to also reinforce something that Rebecca said, just the mentorship and finding your community and the people you can go to, who you are free to be yourself around, and free to just let it all out, to find those people to support you throughout your journey. That would be my advice.
Yes. And just before we fully open it up to the questions that that the audience has for us, I will say that my training, so I trained at Southern Connecticut State University. That's where I got my bachelor's. And I now find myself teaching at Southern Connecticut State University, which just kind of sort of came out of nowhere. I found myself with no job and someone was like, hey, what about this? And I just didn't even think that it was even a possibility, simply because, I don't have my master's, but I have much life experience on the stage. So it kind of balanced out. When I was at Southern, there was one other Black woman, I think one, like that were in the theater department and were like theater majors and stuff. One Black man who also is a part of Shakespeare, who also is the first Black director I've ever had and only. And talk about there was no teachers whatsoever of color at all. And I didn't go to college to be an actor. It wasn't even on my radar in any way, shape, or form. I was going to school to be a psychologist. And I took an intro to performance class, stepped on the stage, and it was a wrap. I was like, oh, okay, so this is the thing that really gets me going. And so to be able to have a class, I teach a foundations in acting class, and I was really nervous. I didn't know what to expect. And the first person, one of my students is on here. So the first person to walk into the classroom was this lovely young woman who was Black. And I was so excited. And I was like, hi, how are you? And I said, what's your name? And she said, my name is Bliss. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Your name is Bliss? Okay. She walked in, and then another lovely Black woman came in. Hi, how are you? What's your name? My name is Majesty. Another comes in. What's your name? My name is Liberty. I swear, is anybody else catching this? This is insane. Liberty, Majesty, Tiara, Mahogany. These are the names of my students, and I have lots of Black women in my classroom. And literally that first day I got in my car and I just cried because I couldn't believe, I'm the one that you guys are gonna say, that the fact that I'm the teacher that you're gonna look to and say, yeah, I had that teacher, just means so much. And the fact that now I have the power at Southern Connecticut State University to make sure that I'm planting the right seeds and that I am using the mentorship program, because that's just in me to be a mentor. And the fact that Shakespeare Company has these scholars that work with us throughout the summer, that then we're each attached, what's the word I'm looking for? We each have one person that we're mentoring throughout the summer, which is just, it's priceless. But to be someone, for me to mentor Black girls, it makes me emotional when I even think about it. Yes, so let's go to another question before I really get into it. Let's see, what do we have in the chat here? Let's open up this chat, see what's going on. Okay, that's the one you just told me.
That was an earlier question, I think.
There's some in the chat, yeah. There's questions in the Q&A, and then there's a bunch in the chat that you might have to. Yeah, if you see a question before I do, by all means, go right ahead and say it.
From Sarah Bowles, was the moment you first thought, oh, Shakespeare is for me? I'd love to hear some of these moments. Whether you performing it yourself, reading in a class, or seeing a production.
Oh, I'll jump in.
Do it.
Just this is one of my favorite memories. When I first started acting, I was taking classes at this church basement organization. It was a year-long program, and I had these 3 teachers. They were really cool, but we had this Shakespeare day because it wasn't a program that really incorporated a lot of Shakespeare. So there was a person who came in and spent like an intensive day with us, and we did Shakespeare. And I remember going into it I prepared Hal's speech to one of the speeches to his father when he thinks his father is dead, and he's like, "Oh, what is this crown? And what is my life?" And I remember the person who walked in was this 6 foot tall black man wearing a hoodie and a fitted. And I'm not gonna lie, when I saw him come in, I was like, all right, I don't know much about Shakespeare, but that's not who I expect to be my teacher today for Shakespeare. And this dude is someone who works consistently, or before the pandemic, who works consistently at Folger Shakespeare in DC, at Shakespeare Theater Company in DC. But I didn't know that going into it. And he came in and he worked with us on the speech, and I was like, wow, I didn't know. First off, I was like, I didn't know there's so much in Shakespeare. Just as a teacher, he was just great, regardless of what he looked like. And then after it, I like stepped back and was like, I totally classified him as a person before he even opened his mouth. And I like took a second to go, okay, Monty, check yourself. But then it also made me go, oh shoot, this dude who's coming in a hoodie and a fitted on a regular Tuesday is killing it in Shakespeare. And it made me go, oh shoot, this is a thing. Like, this is something I can actually do. And then the second thing is, at Yale, our main Shakespeare teacher, our first Shakespeare teacher, is Black. And I saw that face. Chloe, was that face at Yale? Okay. But
I can guarantee you it absolutely was a face at Yale.
Okay. Well, I'll bring it back to Shakespeare. But yeah, I mean, like, he was great. And speaking of people who, again, hold space, I remember he, like, within the first conversation, I was like, oh, he's not Black, he's black. Like, he threw out the N-word within the first conversation. We were sitting there kicking it. I was like, oh, you're chill as F-U-C-K. Okay, cool. And then from then on, I was like, oh, what am I doing? Like, these people killing it are people of color. And case in point, we don't see as many on stage. But when that came up, I was like, oh, okay. My whole perception of Shakespeare was totally off to begin with.
Yes, anybody else?
I was going to say that even a play as, potentially traumatic and problematic as Othello could still be something that inspired me when I think about being a really young, totally green actor, just starting very late in college in Oakland, and seeing Aldo Billingsley talk about Yale, like, we stand on these people's shoulders, who is this just, beautifully just wonderful person and actor playing that role. And I remember having so much really love for that character, even though it's like I could sort of, like, I don't know, sort of blot out other things. Like, I still connected so much. That representation still matters so much. And to see, again, to people's point about virtuosity, right? Somebody doing something excellently, that is also a sense of pride. And lastly, I'll say it's a gift to be able to tell someone that you see them as being able to do a thing. So when Peter Callender saw me in a show and was like, "You're Olivia," right? He knows. He went to Juilliard, right? He has some sort of sense of something that I don't know. And I'm going, I don't even know what you're talking about. But suddenly I can step into something, because that is a gift. And I try to think about that, and I give that gift to young people when I meet them about, oh, you are fabulous at this. You could work for Pixar. And all of a sudden, ding, 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 like, oh, right, that's possible. As soon as I speak it, if I can imagine it, it's possible.
That is so powerful, Rebecca, because like talk about like those first seedling moments. I went to in middle school, y'all. I'm from San Diego. Like, it was like this middle school that nobody cares about. Like, the district did not care about. We were just raggedy little kids, ashy, trying to have to go home. And yet there was this man, my fairy godfather, who I call, and he had this after school program, and like, was like, I'm gonna take these kids who really need some sense of direction, and I am gonna let them do, like, we did A Christmas Carol every year. We did musicals, like my first musical was there. He had us do 2 Shakespeares every year. And like the first role I really ever got to do was the prince or the princess in Romeo and Juliet. And to be like, oh my gosh, like that I am royalty up in there. Like to get to experience that. And he's just nevertheless like nurtured that seed time and time again, until I got to play Juliet in my final, like as a 7th grader. And it was like, that is so powerful that it's the first time I was like, oh, I can do this. And I watched all these, and it was like, I grew up in a very diverse place. So it was like Black kids. It was a lot of Filipino kids. It was like, Mexican kids. It was like, it's such a mix. And we were like, we are for real doing Shakespeare out here. And it is good. You don't even know. We just doing it. It was powerful.
Yeah.
For me, it was definitely a performance that I saw. My path like has been somewhat non-traditional. Like I didn't go to conservatory until like my 20s, and I didn't do Shakespeare, a lot before that. And so I saw John Douglas Thompson in a production of Macbeth in New York. It must have been like 2011. And I'd never seen him in anything. Like I'd heard about him. So I was like, oh, I gotta see who this is. And I mean, just seeing this person on stage who was, it was vibrant, it was immediate, he was black. It was just, it took my breath away. And I felt like, not only can I do it, but I have to do it. Like, how do I encompass what he has on that stage? Yep. And so that's part of what got me to Shakespeare and Company.
A mix of kind of training and what Rebecca said and this question, because I was a physical therapy major. I was in med school before I became an actor. And as I was drifting over into becoming an actor, and I was doing stuff like, I was never Black enough to be the Black roles, but then I wasn't, at least I felt at the time, I wasn't good enough or attractive enough or whatever enough to be like the lead. So I was always like sidekicks. I was funny sidekicks. And like in my mind, like my dream, because you accept your role, you get told, like Plato's cave, as long as you think that the shadow is life, that's what your life is. So I was like, oh, my dream is I'm gonna get onto a Disney Channel show where I'm the Black best friend, and I just walk around going, look at me be Black. I can say things other people can't. That was like my dream. And I went to the University of Houston to get my MFA, and Jack Young, who leads the program, he's challenge based. Like he's always constantly like trying to challenge, like a football coach type thing. So like one of the earliest days in training, he's doing his typical things and trying to challenge us and get us to fight back. And he's going down the line like, oh, you think you can do that? No, not like that. And he comes to me and he's like, oh, you think you're gonna play Hamlet someday? And I said, no. And he went, oh, you think you're a leading man? I was like, not really, no. And he was like, and he like broke his character. I was like, hold on, time out for a second. And he was like, you're a leading man. And I was like, well, no, because he's like, no, stop, don't. Like, I don't know what you think, which I'm telling you, you came to this program because you trust my judgment, right? You're a leading man. Walk into a room telling them, don't buy their energy, sell yours. Walk in the room and tell them you're a leading man. That's what I see when I see you. So look at yourself through my eyes. And like, when I tell you that I attacked grad school with that chip on my shoulder instead of mine, I hate to imagine what my experience would have been like if I continued with that chip. But so just speaking to that power of somebody telling you, like, you can be that thing was so empowering. And the moment that so since I was like, oh, I'm going to have to start doing Shakespeare now, it's going to be in our 2nd year. And I was trying to like see more of it. I remember, I saw one of my first Shakespeare productions. One of the first ones I saw was Othello at Shakespeare Festival St. Louis. I'm from St. Louis. But what I loved about it is because I had heard so many problematic things about it was, it was directed by a Black person. And I've seen it a million times since, and it's always directed by a white person. I'm like, this is probably why people don't like it. But because every time I see it directed by a white person, it becomes the Iago show. But the first time I saw Othello, I understood everything he went, like he was trying so hard to defend Desdemona at every step of the way, but the evidence just kept piling up. And watching that made me go, I want to play that role, watching this man go through this. Because I mean, we all became actors because we just want to feel. And I was like, I got to watch an Othello feel the rainbow of emotions. And that was the moment where I went, oh, nothing I've worked on in class allows me to do that. Nobody's writing like that. I want to play characters where in one scene I'm laughing and joking, the next I'm in a fight, then I'm bleeding, then I'm cursing, then I have a fit, then I'm like, I was like, I want to. That's what I want to do, not just this Othello. I was like, because I like that Rodrigo, I like Cassio. I was like, just in general, I was like, I want to feel. And Shakespeare, like that production made me go, ooh. In Shakespeare, I get to get all up in my feels and feel my feelings feelingly. So that was my experience.
KP, what high school did you go to?
Francis Howell North.
Okay. Clayton.
All right.
I know. I mean, you said Francis Howell. I had to get you. So we're both. That's a classic St. Louis question. Is
Yes.
What high school
And then I went to undergrad at St. Louis University, so I'm also a Billiken.
Nice. Hey. Okay. I don't know. I had nothing. I just wanted to say that. I think that Shakespeare, I caused a lot of trouble in middle school. Long story short, in detention, the person who was running detention threw me at the theater person. They were doing The Winter's Tale. I got cast as Leontes. Leontes, I understood. It was the first time that I had seen the things I was feeling on a page. All the words I had never been able to express were just right there. Everything was just made plain. And fast forward to being in class with PFJ at the school that starts with the Y. He kicked my butt. He kicked my whole butt. We did this thing called character workshop at the end of second year, and I fell flat on my face. And I realized that that was sort of a turning point, because I realized that this was something that requires work. It requires work. It requires work. This is an industry that thrives on mediocrity. It requires work. If you put in at least 80%, you will succeed. Not because of not success in like you're going to be super famous, who cares? No, you will succeed in that, like you will work consistently because you put the work in. There are a lot of people who are successful in the famous world, whatever, because they are mediocre. But Shakespeare does not allow you to be mediocre. You can't be. That's it. I really just came on to ask what high school KP went to.
The way I came to Shakespeare, I'm about to date myself a little bit, but you know, good black don't crack. I was in, I think 8th grade, and Miss Carbone's class, and we were reading Hamlet. And she put it, you know, we were reading it, but I'm like, I have no idea what this is. I didn't understand the language. And then she came in one day and put a record on. And I don't remember who was, you know, it was Hamlet, but it was on a record. And everything, I was like, I understood everything that was happening all of a sudden, just being able to hear it, you know. But then the first production of Shakespeare that I was in was Much Ado About Nothing. And I didn't think I belonged in there at all. I felt like I was cast literally because I was Black. And so there was this thing that it's like, I couldn't feel super excited about the role because I felt like a token. So, you know, I just kind of did it because she said I could do it. And I did. And then it really honestly wasn't until the theater company that me and a friend of mine, a few of us started up. It was called Godlight Theater Company. And we did Romeo and Juliet. And it just changed everything. I must have done Romeo and Juliet with them like 3 times that we did it. But it made it, for me, it opened up a world and made me feel like I was part of it. I don't know if it was like the direction or the people, the fact that I was just working with a bunch of my friends and that this was our theater company that we were trying to like, you know, get off the ground. It just, I mean, the theater company's still going in New York City now. It was here in Connecticut, but yeah, we did a lot of Shakespeare. We also did Macbeth 2 with them at Long Wharf Theater. So honestly, I don't think that I understood that this world was for me until I started working with Elm Shakespeare, which was in 2014, I think it was. I'd always go to the shows. I was always in the audience watching it. It was like one of my favorite things to do in the summertime, watch Elm Shakespeare, go see it at least twice. And then I found myself up on that stage in Pericles. And like I said, it just opened up a whole new world for me. But still had, you know, it took me a while to just feel like this is for me too, you know, that I belong here. But I think that, you know, I felt like what I needed back then was a familiar face. And I never really had that. So it was always like, as if I was the one that was going to be the example. And I was not comfortable with that. You know, I was like, I don't feel like I know enough. Like I know what I'm doing enough to be, you know, comfortable playing that role. And it took a while for me to just, you know, get the confidence up and to walk into rooms and say, no, this is the part that I'm playing. You know, this is where I belong. I never saw myself as a leading person unless I was like, well, you know, I can play a maid. I can play, you know, something that was not a love interest because I just didn't think that I belonged. But like I said, I think just being on this, just doing this event with y'all, I think has definitely opened up some things for me that are a little bit surprising. And so I want to thank all of you for all that you've shared and all the different avenues that you've opened up, not just for, you know, for the new crop coming along, but also for some of us old folks that still need a little bit like, what are the kids doing nowadays? You know, kind of thing. I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything else they want to say. Do we have any more questions in the chat? I think we went through them all. Just want to make sure that I didn't miss any questions from anybody. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So any final words from you guys?
Just to anybody in the training boat, to really cultivate the muscle of trusting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I wish I had done earlier, because there is a quiet, small, still voice inside that will tell you this, not this, or nah, I'm not sure about that, or let's talk about getting somebody who can do my hair. All these things, you feel it, but you just put them aside.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things, and especially with Shakespeare too, just being like, I'm drawn to that. So let me cultivate that and just make that voice louder and louder, and that will serve.
To piggyback off of what Rebecca said, there was a question earlier, I think, about like, how do you, get into Shakespeare? How do you, embark on a career, knowing, potentially what you're getting into. And I would, to piggyback off of what Rebecca said, I don't think I've ever been an audience member in an artist panel where an artist was like, hey, like, take your time being yourself, you can get to it. Everyone has always said, like, it pays off in dividends to do it now and to do it more ASAP. And I'll also add to that, for those who don't believe this or haven't, had the experience yet, the role, in my humble opinion, the role of an artist is to show people what they haven't seen, not in terms of like, oh, get these hits, get these likes, but as in like share your perspective on the world with them, which I think inherently means that you will be walking into a room or be in front of an audience who won't necessarily get you right away. And I think that's part of the work. That's part of the job. That's not something we can necessarily avoid. If you're successful, the rest of that, great. People get you right away, fantastic. But I think for the vast majority of us, that's not the case. So I would say, put that inside of you now. Don't go into a room expecting to not be understood. But I would definitely say, prepare yourself to make room for yourself in this art form itself.
Yeah, I love that. There's something that you both lifted up. And I think that in order to like do you, like solitude is so important. And that's something that like both this pandemic and like just this halt is just reminding me, is like, I can share me when I know who and what me is. The more that I know where I need to go to source that feeling or that experience or share that part of myself, and the more care that I take with that, the easier it is for me to offer it up as a gift, So like, don't be, and like, it can be lonely sometimes, but like, just constantly understanding that loneliness and aloneness are not the same thing. And like, don't be afraid to like, as August Wilson says, confront the dark parts of yourself. And that allows your angels to sing, work to banish those dark parts of yourself. And that's the work. How you live your life shows up in the work,
Look at stars, go on hikes, like look at trees, read more books, drink water, breathe, call your mom if or call a person who saw you through your childhood. If you feel uncomfortable, don't look at your phone, just be uncomfortable. See where that takes you. It might be an adventure. It also might suck, but that's cool too. That's useful. Life's too short to spend it staring at Instagram. And none of that stuff's that interesting anyway.
Already be working on stuff and understand that you can work on something without ever having the intention to share it. Since so much about our business, not to mention just like life right now, is about content creation, just constantly having something on your Instagram story, having a TikTok, having it just being seen. Like, just take some time to go, you know what? I've always wanted to be Romeo. Why aren't you working on it right now? Like, just for yourself. Why aren't you just at home memorizing the lines and working on it and studying it just for you? Because that stuff just makes you more full in general. Just to be saying, I'm gonna write songs, never sing them, never for anybody, but just because it makes me more me. Because the more me, the more parts of you that you know about, the more parts that you can bring to other people. Because audiences come to see plays because they want us to feel the stuff they're too afraid to in their lives. They want to see us go through the things for them. And so take some time and go through those things with yourself. And side note, I just hope to work with all of you at some point.
Yes.
That's just selfishly me saying
yes.
that.
Yes, on that note, let's end on that
Yes.
note. Let's do
Yes, speak it into existence.
Rebecca said that is the one. That will not be topped. That.
I kind of have to agree with Rebecca here. We're kind of at our time right now. It's let me see what time it is. It's 9:02. And I want to thank each and every one of you amazing artists that graced us with your presence and provided us with your intellect and funny, just funny and relaxed, so that we can have it be a conversation more so than a production. So I appreciate all of you for that. I'd like to once again thank our sponsors, the Elizabethan Club of Yale University, Webster Bank, SCSU. And I also want to remind folks that they can donate at www.elmshakespeare.org. And I think we're done, guys. Thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you so much. And I hope and I know that if Rebecca has anything to do with that, Rebecca Samanga Frank, that we will all be working together at some point in the future. So
All the
yay!
Rebeccas.
To
Thank you.
all the Rebeccas, yes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Gracie, for leading us through this experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gracie.
Thank you, guys. It was literally my pleasure. Literally my pleasure. Have a wonderful evening.
Good night, y'all.
Yes. Drink water, wear your mask, and be safe.